Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but this strange piece of metal is part of a group of metals that hold the key to the entire future of artificial intelligence. And it's promised to unlock $100 trillion in new wealth. And there's currently only one company here in the US that can produce them. Now, right now, it's the only company that can help President Trump fulfill his promise to make America the leader in artificial intelligence. And that's why I believe he's about to grant what I'm calling national security status to this little-known company, sending shares higher than anyone can imagine. Hi, I'm Jeff Brown, and I'm here at the production site investigating what could be the biggest technology story of this decade. Very few people understand what's happening here because I'm in the middle of nowhere in a desert in the United States, hundreds of miles away from Silicon Valley, in a small town of just 30 people. This is basically a ghost town. But this place has been called a game changer for America for good reason. You see, for over a decade, I was a senior executive at two of the most important semiconductor companies in history, Qualcomm and NXP Semiconductors. And thanks to all that experience, I know the chip industry like the palm of my hand. I can list all 300 materials that go into a high-performing artificial intelligence chip. So I can tell you that this obscure metal that I'm holding in my hand right now is part of a group of critical metals that are the building blocks of all the AI chips. The same chips that are powering every single AI application in today's world. I'm talking about OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, xAI's Grok, and all the other AI large language models. Self-driving cars, robotics, AI-driven drug discovery. The fact is, every single AI application depends on these metals, and there are no substitutes. The Semiconductor Industry Association has admitted it when they said, in many instances, there are no known alternatives to these materials that satisfy our functional needs. Do you know what that means? It means the entire AI boom depends on these metals. The CEO of NVIDIA predicted that AI will trigger a $100 trillion new industrial revolution, but that's only possible with these metals. And this company that I'm investigating is currently the only one here in the US producing them. In fact, this land under my feet has one of the highest concentrations of this metal in the world. So let's think about this logically. All of the major chip manufacturers depend on this company's products. I'm talking about NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, Samsung Electronics, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, and so many more. They all need these metals to produce advanced AI chips. And since those chips are the engine that power all AI applications, it means all the big tech firms who are advancing AI also depend on these metals. Now, I'm talking about Google, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Oracle, Palantir, even IBM, you name it. They all need this company's products. So while everyone has been focusing on NVIDIA and other popular AI stocks, this little-known US company that has a virtual monopoly in this space could be the most important firm in the world when it comes to the development of artificial intelligence, which everyone knows will be the biggest technology of this century. And it's not just AI. These metals are also key components of your smartphone speakers and vibration motors, the hard drives and screens in your laptop, and even the brakes in your cars. They're also key components of medical equipment, electric vehicles, jet fighters, drones, satellites, and military radar systems. So it would not be an exaggeration to say that these metals are the essential building blocks of much of modern technology. Now, here's the big problem, and I want you to pay special attention to what I'm about to say, because this is where the big opportunity comes in. Before the 1980s, America used to be a leader in these critical metals, but after years of mismanagement and government red tape, the US has become completely dependent on China, which is America's #1 strategic competitor. As industry insider John Cush says, drones, windmills, electric cars, computers, lasers, radar systems, magnets of quality, or medical devices are 100% reliant on China for these critical minerals. President Trump understands this is a big problem for America, which is why he's taking drastic actions to fix it. He wants to make America the leader in AI, but that is not going to happen if we depend on China for these metals, which is why this past March, he signed this executive order you see on the screen called Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production. Now, through that executive order, he invoked wartime powers to reduce our dependence on nations like China. And he directed several agencies to, and I quote, take immediate action to facilitate domestic mineral production to the maximum possible extent. And as part of this directive, the Trump administration has begun to grant what I call national security status to a number of these firms. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means these companies' projects are getting fast-tracked and are getting full support of the U.S. government. Recently, a few producers of other key minerals like copper, lithium, nickel, and uranium were granted this special status, and in some cases, sending their shares a lot higher. Now, while there are never any guarantees in the market, I believe this company that I'm telling you about today will be next. Now, since these metals are key to the future of AI, I believe soon the Trump administration will grant this company special status as well. And that's why you'll need to act fast here for the chance to see the biggest gains. This is a rare and urgent opportunity, and there is a lot of money on the line. Thanks to the development of AI, we're about to see an explosion in demand for these critical metals. But there's only one company currently producing them here in the U.S. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that this is an explosive opportunity. So let me go inside to give you all the details on this incredible story. Like I said before, my name is Jeff Brown. I'm a former senior executive of three major public tech companies, Qualcomm, NXP Semiconductors, and Juniper Networks. Three firms that now generate more than $50 billion in annual sales. And I'm also an angel investor who has invested in hundreds of deals involving private companies, with returns as high as 5,344%, 5,900%, and even a mind-blowing 11,300%. And because of my tech expertise, I've advised senior officials of the Department of Commerce, policymakers, members of the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, and the Defense Intelligence Agency. And thanks to all that experience, I've been way ahead of the curve when it comes to this AI boom. For example, in February 2016, when almost nobody was talking about artificial intelligence, I picked NVIDIA as one of my favorite stocks. And today, it's probably the most popular stock in the world. Shares have jumped by more than 23,000%. That's enough to turn $1,000 into $240,000. The following year, in 2017, I picked the chipmaker AMD as my favorite stock. And today, AMD is another major AI player. And anyone who listened to me and held on had a chance to turn $1,000 into $19,000. In 2018, I made a bold prediction about self-driving Teslas. Back then, most people thought it was just science fiction. The media was calling Elon Musk a fraud, and Wall Street analysts were predicting Tesla was about to crash. Virtually everyone thought shares of Tesla were overpriced because they were analyzing it as a car company. But I actually recommended it to my readers because I had a very different view. Here's what I wrote. When I think about Tesla, I see one of the leading artificial intelligence companies in the world. This is the incredible part that most don't see or understand. Tesla designed a software/AI platform designed to operate cars. That was November of 2018. Today, Teslas do have the ability to drive themselves. In fact, my own Tesla drives me around every day, and I don't even have to touch the steering wheel. I'm not kidding. The Tesla Model Y has become the best-selling vehicle in the entire world, not electric vehicle, any kind of passenger vehicle. And instead of crashing, shares have jumped as high as 2,150%. Those who listened to me and held on had a chance to turn every $1,000 into up to $22,500. And that's really just a small snapshot of my AI track record. For example, I also picked Palo Alto Networks, a company that's using AI in the cybersecurity space. Shares have jumped as much as 808%. I picked semiconductor equipment manufacturing company ASML before it soared as much as 582%. And I picked Lam Research, another AI semiconductor manufacturing stock that's also up big. Now, as you can see, folks who held on had a chance to pocket some big returns. Now, of course, these are some of my best picks, but the truth of the matter is a lot of people are already getting rich from AI. But if you've missed all of my past winners like NVIDIA and Tesla, AMD, and many more, I do have good news. I believe this little-known metal company will be the next big beneficiary of this AI boom. And it's all thanks to a 1949 accidental discovery. You see, after World War II, we had a nuclear arms race with intense competition between the United States and the Soviet Union to develop and stockpile nuclear weapons. It was the beginning of the Cold War, and it triggered massive demand for uranium. So in 1949, 3 prospectors were looking for uranium in that ghost town that I just showed you. But instead of uranium, they found a strange ore called besnayite, which is a mineral rich in these critical elements that I've been telling you about today. Unfortunately, because of government red tape and mismanagement, this incredible natural resource has just been sitting there for decades. But now that AI is going mainstream, these minerals have become more important than ever before. And thanks to their unique atomic structure, these elements can produce magnetic fields far stronger than other metals. And these magnetic properties are critical for modern technology. For example, it's a tiny magnetic field that makes your phone vibrate. A medium-sized magnetic field can power the wheels of electric cars, and a large one can even transform air into electricity, which is why they're used in wind turbines. Now, these magnetic fields are also critical for our military because they play a key role in the production of advanced lasers, radar systems, night vision equipment, missile guidance systems, and even jet engines. In fact, a single F-35 Lightning II aircraft requires more than 900 pounds of these elements. And because of all these uses, these metals were already in high demand. But now, because of the explosion in artificial intelligence applications, I believe demand is about to skyrocket to unprecedented levels. Like I mentioned before, these elements are also critical to AI chips because it increases heat resistance. It helps to keep the chips running smoothly under heavy loads. They're also used in hard drives in AI data centers and in batteries that power AI devices. Now, after the correction in many AI stocks in early 2025, some people in the media started talking about a potential end to this AI boom. But that couldn't be further from the truth. It reminds me of when everyone thought Tesla would collapse back in early 2018 when I was recommending the company. The truth is, recent earnings announcements from companies like Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA show that the AI boom is far from over. For example, NVIDIA reported record sales recently, mainly because of incredible demand for its latest AI chip, Blackwell. Now, if the AI boom was over, NVIDIA would not be reporting record sales. Its business is still seeing incredible growth, and in order to meet demand, NVIDIA is actually planning to release more advanced chips later this year and again next year. I expect these next-gen chips will come with even faster processing speeds, and they will need all these metals that I'm talking about. NVIDIA knows companies like Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon will continue to buy these chips for years to come. Why? because it is a matter of survival. Companies that are not operating at the bleeding edge of AI semiconductors will be left behind. So the AI boom is far from dead, and anyone who tells you the boom is over has no clue what they're talking about. The truth is, all of the big tech firms are in a frenzied race towards the next generation of artificial intelligence, an AI that can think and learn just like a human, and an AI that can handle any task that we can, from writing books to software coding, but do it much faster and much smarter. In order to achieve that, we will need a lot more computing power. And that's why NVIDIA keeps launching new, more powerful chips. And it's why big tech has been investing tens of billions of dollars into data centers that host AI supercomputers. They know this is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. Now, I've been researching this for years, and I even traveled across the country to see some of these supercomputers with my own eyes. For example, I went to Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin to check out the joint project between OpenAI and Microsoft, its massive supercomputer. I also went to Council Bluffs, Iowa to research one of Google's major projects, and to Ashburn, Virginia, where Meta has several of their own AI facilities. I also went to the industrial zone of South Memphis to investigate Elon Musk's Project Colossus, which he called the most powerful supercomputer of any kind in the world. Elon's computer operates with 200,000 NVIDIA chips, and he's in the process of scaling that up to 1 million chips, potentially as early as the end of this year. So its computational power is about to explode by 500%. And remember, every single one of those chips will need these metals. These AI data centers are popping up all over the country, and it is just the beginning. Just listen to what the founder of Dell Computers, Michael Dell, said. There definitely needs to be a big build-out of data center capacity. There are already lots of projects all over the country and around the world, but we could need 100 times more of these data centers than we have today. Now, aside from building new ones, the existing data centers in the U.S. will also have to receive a major upgrade because they were not built to support the kind of computational power that is required by artificial intelligence. And that's why NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, recently made this prediction. The world has installed $1 trillion worth of data centers. Every single data center will be an accelerated server. There's about 1 trillion worth of computers over the next 4 years that we will need to replace. Simply put, if our data centers don't upgrade the network and computing infrastructure, then they won't be able to handle the coming tsunami of AI workloads. So we will need to build thousands of new data centers. And on top of that, according to NVIDIA's CEO, all the 5,392 existing data centers in the U.S. will also need to be upgraded. And guess what? Every single one of those data centers will need these metals because they're used in hard drives and cooling systems. And that's why I believe demand for this little-known company's product is about to go through the roof. And that is just the infrastructure. We're already starting to see physical applications of AI, which I believe will be the next phase of this boom. And it's not just me saying it. According to the CEO of NVIDIA, the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. Now remember, before ChatGPT, nobody was even talking about AI. That was the first moment that everyone could actually interact with an AI model from their own computers. And everyone had a chance to see with their own eyes the power of this technology, which is why AI went mainstream, triggering a massive boom in all the stocks that were involved in that hot new trend. And now the CEO of NVIDIA, who understands more about AI than just about anyone else in the world, is predicting we're about to see robots going mainstream. And you know what? I believe he's 100% right. Now, first, we'll see robots on wheels everywhere, or what most people know of as self-driving cars. And that's not many years away. In fact, Elon Musk is gearing up to launch his robotaxi service across the nation. By the time you see this message, it might already be operating in select cities. It'll work just like Uber, but without a driver in the front seat. In fact, take a look at this image Elon shared in one of Tesla's earnings calls. This is what Tesla's robotaxi app looks like. You'll simply press a button that says summon, and a few minutes later, a self-driving Tesla will show up to take you to your destination. And there will be nobody at the steering wheel. It won't be some kind of souped-up Tesla with $100,000 worth of sensors placed all over the car. It will be a standard, mass-produced Tesla, the same exact cars that consumers buy. Now, Elon is predicting that soon we'll see millions of these autonomous self-driving Teslas operating around the country. He said, "Can you go to sleep in our cars and wake up at your destination?" I'm confident that will be available in many cities in the U.S. by the end of this year. Then, in 2026, he's planning to launch a cybercab, which is a car that doesn't even have a steering wheel or pedals. And guess what? All those cars will also need these metals that I've been telling you about. And then there's humanoid robots, robots with 2 arms and legs that are designed to move like humans. I know that sounds like science fiction, but it is already a reality. There are 49 different companies developing humanoid robots right now. The highest profile of those is Elon Musk's Optimus, which is part of Tesla. He believes several thousand more of those robots will be built this year. And they're actually already working in Tesla factories and offices. Now, if you think that's just a pipe dream, you should know Amazon already has humanoid robots working in some of their own warehouses. BMW recently introduced humanoid robots to a U.S. factory as well in South Carolina. South Korean car firm Hyundai is planning to do the same. It announced it will order tens of thousands of robots from Boston Dynamics. That's why Wired wrote, 2025 looks set to be the year that multi-purpose humanoid robots go commercial. Now, I know a lot of people still believe this is just science fiction and that it's never going to happen. And they can't imagine a world where millions of robots are just walking among us. Now, I believe those people are making a big mistake, and they will end up missing out on the biggest consumer product of this century. And that's not just me saying it. According to Goldman Sachs, humanoid robots could become the next must-have device, just like a smartphone. You see, these robots are currently being deployed at factories, but I expect once they're trained well enough to move and behave like humans, once they've been optimized and can avoid any glitches, they will begin to hit homes across the United States. Elon is betting the entire future of Tesla on this trend. I mean, imagine having a butler that's smarter than any human on the planet, one that can teach your children and your grandchildren better than any teacher, one that could instantly answer any question that you might have about anything, or one that could also do any tasks around the house, like wash the dishes, do the laundry, even mow the lawn. That is literally Elon's vision. Elon predicted that in the future, everyone will want to own one of these Tesla robots. He said, "We expect to scale Optimus up faster than any product in history." And he believes it will become the biggest product ever of any kind. I estimate there is a market demand for at least 1 billion humanoid robots in the world. And guess what? They'll all need these metals that I'm telling you about. You see, aside from being a key component of AI chips, these metals are also used in small motors that power robotic limbs. And remember, the CEO of NVIDIA is predicting that we're going to see a $100 trillion industrial revolution. So we're still at the early stages of this boom. By 2030, we will not recognize the world. Humanoid robots, cars with no humans at the steering wheel, and super smart AI personal assistants will all be as common as cell phones are today. Every single one of those AI applications will require these metals. And only one company here in the US has a virtual monopoly in this space. and it has no competitors here in the US. And it will remain like that for many years to come, because according to S&P Global, even if another company makes a huge discovery of these metals, an entirely new mine would take, on average, get this, 18 years to become operational. 18 years, that's almost 2 decades. That means this company will have a virtual monopoly here in the US for a very long time. So think about this. While AI is about to send demand to the moon, this company is the only one here in the US that can supply these metals. And it's estimated that our stockpile of these metals is already running very low, enough for just a matter of months. And that's where the opportunity comes in. This combination of low supply and rising demand is a recipe for a historic boom. That is a basic law of economics. And it's why some of the biggest gains in the history of the stock market came from situations like this, when there was a huge imbalance between supply and demand of a key resource. For example, look at what happened with industrial metals in the early 2000s. With rapid industrialization in China and other emerging markets, the demand for steel, copper, and aluminum went parabolic in that decade, creating a massive supply crunch. As a result, shares of many companies that were producing those metals soared. Southern Copper Corporation jumped high enough to turn every $5,000 into more than $122,000. Shares of steel producer Cleveland-Cliffs jumped even higher, as high as 6,348%. That's enough to turn $5,000 into more than $320,000. And shares of Azimut, which mines copper, nickel, and lithium, soared to unbelievable highs, enough to turn every $5,000 into a mind-blowing $779,000, which would be a massive retirement nest egg for most folks. Now just think about that. Most folks spend their entire lives saving money and investing, but they're never able to build that kind of nest egg. But it was possible to do it with just one company during this kind of supply crunch, starting with just a small stake of $5,000. And that's why I told you earlier, this is a rare and explosive opportunity. When demand is rising but supply is limited, prices are perfectly positioned to go up. Again, it's a law of economics. Just look at what happened a few years ago, when we also saw this kind of demand-supply imbalance in uranium. Around 2004, we saw renewed interest in nuclear energy. Investors were anticipating a huge increase in demand because China, India, Russia, and a few other companies were planning to build new nuclear power plants to fuel their growing economies. And at the same time, the largest undeveloped high-grade uranium ore deposits in the world suffered a catastrophic flooding, creating a supply crunch. And the law of economics dictates that whenever that happens, prices should go up. And that's exactly what happened, triggering a historic bull market in the companies that were producing the metal. Shares of mega uranium jumped as high as 21,425%. And anyone who invested just $5,000 in this company had a chance to become a certified millionaire in just a few years. Forces Metals Corp soared as high as 33,900%, enough to turn a small stake of $5,000 into a $1.7 million payout. And Paladin Energy, another uranium miner, went on to produce the biggest and quickest gain I've ever seen in the stock market in any sector ever, a whopping 161,899% gain. That's enough to turn every $5,000 into more than $8 million in just a few years. That is really mind-blowing. Now, of course, these gains are some of the best historic gains that I found in my research, and I can't guarantee that you'll see gains this high, but that is the power of these demand-supply imbalances. Now, it can send shares of these producers higher than what logic dictates. So the question is, could something like this really happen with these critical minerals? Absolutely. In fact, Back in 2010, we saw a supply crunch in these exact same minerals that I'm talking about today. China produces as much as 97% of the world's supply of these minerals. But that year, it realized its domestic supply wouldn't be enough to meet its own needs. So it decided to cut export quotas by 72%. Now, that was obviously a huge supply shock for the entire industry, helping send shares of the companies involved in that market to the stratosphere for gains as high as 2,209%, 2,240%, and even 5,059%, all in the span of about just 2 years. So imagine investing $5,000 in a little-known producer of these metals and cashing out with more than $250,000 just about 2 years later. That is the opportunity that we actually saw in 2010. So yes, this kind of boom could absolutely happen again, especially now that China has just restricted its exports once again, just like they did in 2010. You see, in retaliation for Trump's tariffs, China recently decided to cut its exports of these minerals to the United States. So now we have a situation where demand is booming because of AI, but supply is very limited, perhaps more limited than ever. Like I just mentioned, our stockpile may last just months, and that's why the Wall Street Journal recently reported that prices of these minerals are already skyrocketing. Make no mistake, I believe this is just the beginning of a historic boom in this area. And this company that has a virtual monopoly in the United States is perfectly positioned to benefit from this supply-demand imbalance. And what makes this opportunity even more explosive is the fact that I believe the Trump administration will soon get behind this company. President Trump understands we can't rely on China for these and other critical metals, which is why he began to fast-track a few natural resource companies that own key projects in America. The U.S. government even wants to build a strategic reserve for critical minerals, much like our strategic oil reserves that President Trump is working to replenish. Financial Times reported that Trump wants to, and I quote, create large quantities ready and available on U.S. territory to be used in the future. You see, what most people don't realize is that this isn't just a matter of becoming a leader in artificial intelligence. It is actually a matter of national security. Because, like I mentioned before, these metals are key components of several weapons used by our military. And that's why the Department of Defense set a goal to develop a complete supply chain for these metals right here in the United States. One big enough to meet all U.S. defense needs by 2027. Now, right now, this company that I've been telling you about is the only company that can help the U.S. government achieve that goal. In fact, they are expanding their operations to develop a fully domestic supply chain. I've seen it myself, where they mine and refine these minerals all right here in the United States without any involvement from China. As a researcher for Barclays wrote, securing supply chains goes far beyond tapping new mines. It requires investment in refining, a crucial step which remains firmly in China's hands. And without this, the U.S. won't easily close the gap. That's why I believe President Trump will soon grant this company national security status and provide the support that they need. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the government even decides to invest directly in this company. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum has confirmed that the Trump administration is considering making an equity investment in each of these companies that's taking on China in critical minerals. Now, what do you think is going to happen to its shares of the company if the government announces an investment? You don't have to be a genius to know shares will likely go a lot higher at a minimum. And I believe the Trump administration will add this company to the list of critical projects in America. Like I mentioned before, his administration has already granted this special status to a few producers of other key minerals, sending their shares a lot higher. For example, it granted special status to an antimony and gold mine in Idaho. Shares of the company behind that project have jumped as high as 81% just this year. It granted special status to a lithium project in Arkansas. Shares of the company jumped as high as 38% in just a few weeks. It granted special status to the expansion of a palladium project in Montana, and shares of the company behind that project jumped as high as 48% in just weeks. Can you see the pattern? And while all the companies above are indeed set to produce something pretty important for America, in my mind, nothing is more important than these metals I've been telling you about, because they hold the key to the entire $100 trillion AI industrial revolution. And we all know that AI will be the technology of this century. And again, there's only one company currently producing these AI metals here in the United States, which is why I highly recommend you buy shares now, because the Trump administration could grant its special status and send shares higher than anyone can imagine. And I put all the details inside a special report called The Company Behind the $100 trillion AI Metal. Inside, you'll find the name, ticker symbol, and my full analysis. So how can you claim this report? Well, I actually want to give you this report completely free of charge. And all I ask in return is that you try out my monthly research service called the Near Future Report for the next 60 days, at no risk to you. The Near Future Report is where I publish my best investment ideas every month. And I call it the near future because the future is coming much, much faster than we think. Technology is moving so fast that it is really hard for most to keep up. I'm sure you've noticed it. By the time we hear about it from the mainstream media, it's already too late. Shares have already popped, and the big money has been made. So, in the pages of the Near Future Report, I focus on identifying and profiting from big trends on the verge of mass adoption before they become breaking news on mainstream media, just like I did with Tesla, with Bitcoin and Nvidia, and so many other of my picks. Now, aside from showing you early stage trends and giving you a chance to get ahead of everyone else, in the pages of the Near Future Report, I also help you navigate the ups and downs of the stock market. For example, on March 17, 2020, amidst peak pandemic hysteria, I sent an urgent video to my readers and made a bold call. We actually have a clip of that. Let me play it for you.
First of all, and most importantly, things are absolutely going to get better. Will be probably the best opportunity to make investments over the course of the next decade.
3 days later, the stock market began a historic bounce back, and since then, the S&P 500 has more than doubled. But some of my picks from my model portfolio jumped much higher. If you had held on past their original recommendations and sold at their peak, you could have made as much as 2,899% in Nvidia, Arista Networks as much as 769%, Palo Alto Networks 679%, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing 315%. These were all market-beating gains by far. Remember, you can try the Near Future Report for the next 60 days at absolutely no risk to you. And when you do, I'll immediately send you the special report, The Company Behind the $100 trillion AI Metal. Now, normally, a one-year membership to the Near Future Report costs $499. But because time is of the essence here, I'm going to give you a huge discount. I just don't want the price to be an issue. Now, the most important thing is that you get into this play now before it potentially gets fast-tracked by the Trump administration. But before I give you the details on this discount, I'd like to give you a few bonus reports with even more explosive opportunities. So let me quickly cover these bonus reports right now. The first opportunity I want to tell you about is a revolutionary new source of energy that could power the entire AI boom. As I mentioned before, all the big tech firms are locked in a race towards the next generation of artificial intelligence. And to get there, we'll need a lot more computational power and a lot more energy. Just to give you an idea, when you ask ChatGPT a question, it consumes 10 times more energy than when you do a simple Google search. The Boston Consulting Group estimates by 2030, AI data centers will consume the same amount of power consumed by 2/3 of all the homes in the United States. Our aging power grid simply cannot handle that kind of energy demand, and we desperately need a new source of clean energy. Well, the good news is we've already found a source of virtually limitless clean energy, and it's called helium-3. And I'm recommending a company that I believe will help humanity explore this incredible new source of energy. You see, helium-3 is a high-energy particle released from solar wind, and it's the ideal fuel to make nuclear fusion a reality. Now, whenever you hear about nuclear energy, I'm sure the first thing that comes to your mind is it's dangerous. Well, that's because nuclear reactors can melt down, like we saw with the disasters at Chernobyl in 1986, and of course, more recently, Fukushima in 2011. But what if we could have a nuclear power with little to no nuclear waste and no risk of a meltdown? This is actually possible with a process called nuclear fusion, a process that mimics the sun's energy production. Now, like I said, helium-3 is the ideal fuel to make nuclear fusion a reality because it's not radioactive. That means it cannot melt down, and it produces no dangerous waste products. And it has the potential to provide centuries of nearly limitless renewable power to the world, and that's wonderful news. The bad news is the Earth doesn't have any helium-3 because its magnetic field protects us from the solar wind, which is the main source of helium-3. Now, the moon doesn't have that kind of protection, which is why it's been bombarded with large quantities of helium-3 by the solar wind for billions of years. That's why these particles have settled on the surface of the moon and are so abundant. Now, look, I know this is going to sound crazy, but if we want to have this kind of virtually unlimited clean energy, we'll have to go get helium-3 on the moon. And as crazy as that sounds, NASA and a few private companies are already working on making that a reality. And they could accomplish this using equipment from Elon Musk's SpaceX. I believe its rockets will play a key role in extracting helium-3 from the moon. And that's one reason why I recently showed my Near Future Report readers how to take a stake in SpaceX, even though it's a private company. But it's not the only reason. Helium-3 is just a small part of why I believe SpaceX could be one of the best investments of the decade. Its network of satellites called Starlink is the most urgent opportunity. With all the SpaceX innovations, the cost of launching satellites into orbit could be cut by 1/100-fold, allowing Elon to launch more satellites and soon build a network big enough to cover the entire planet. And that's why I believe Starlink will be the world's first global internet carrier, and why I also believe it will be Elon's next $1 trillion business. On top of that, Elon has no competitors, and SpaceX is set to receive billions from the U.S. government in new contracts. This opportunity is so explosive that it would normally be reserved for rich people with connections in Silicon Valley. But I have found a way for you to claim a stake in SpaceX, starting with as little as $500. And I put all the details inside a special report called The Biggest IPO of the Decade, How to Claim Your Stake in SpaceX. And it's yours 100% free of charge once you join the Near Future Report. I'll also give you access to another bonus report called How to Profit from Elon Musk's Robotics Revolution. Like I mentioned before, the CEO of NVIDIA said that the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. And I believe Elon's Optimus will be far superior than any of the other robots that are being built. He believes it will become the biggest product ever of any kind. So let's say these robots are sold for around $25,000 each, which is roughly the target price. And I estimate there is a market demand for at least 1 billion humanoid robots in the world. That is a $25 trillion market. The company or companies that dominate this market will be worth trillions. And that's why I'm extremely bullish on Tesla right now. They are leading the way. But aside from Tesla, I'm also recommending shares of another smaller Elon Musk supplier. This little-known company is already supplying Tesla with a key piece of sensor technology. So I wouldn't be surprised if they end up supplying Optimus with those sensors as well. In fact, Morgan Stanley just recommended this stock as one of the key ways to play this robotics trend. And they're not alone. While most people are in the dark, more than 700 hedge funds are investing in this little-known stock. And I don't want you to be left out, which is why the moment you join the Near Future Report, you will gain immediate access to this bonus report called How to Profit from Elon Musk's Robotics Revolution. And I also want to give you access to another report called Elon Musk's Silent Partner, How to Profit from His New $9 trillion Revolution. You see, Elon believes his robotaxi network could create more than $9 trillion in value. That's not a mistake. That's 9 trillion with a T. That's nearly 6 times more money than the market caps of Tesla, SpaceX, PayPal, Neuralink, and X combined. So, how can you profit from his robotaxi network? Well, the obvious answer is buying shares of Tesla. And it's a great company with a bright future. But here's the thing. I recommended shares of Tesla back in 2018 because I believe shares were dirt cheap. But that was before they soared more than 2,000% at the peak. That's not the case anymore. So while I believe the company still has good upside potential, I want to tell you about a little-known Tesla supplier because it could be more explosive than Tesla itself. You see, Tesla cars have 8 cameras that operate as the eyes of its AI. These cameras are constantly sending massive amounts of data to the car's central computer, its neural network, and that data needs to be processed in real time. The computer needs to be able to make millions of real-time, split-second decisions to make sure that the car drives itself safely to its destination. Teslas are only able to do that because of the memory chip that I'm holding in this image. Without this technology, Elon's dream of dominating the self-driving space would never happen. And right now, you can invest in this technology. All you need to do is buy shares of this little-known Elon Musk supplier that makes this chip. And this isn't a well-known company like NVIDIA, and most people have never heard of it. If you go through Tesla's latest annual report and look for the name of this company, you simply won't find it. But you'll find all the details inside this special report called Elon Musk's Silent Partner, How to Profit from His New $9 trillion Revolution. Again, all these reports are yours free when you join the Near Future Report. So here's the deal. Like I mentioned earlier, the normal price for a 1-year membership is $499. But today, you'll get a huge discount. Click the button on your screen to see your special price and get started. And remember, I'm not even asking for any type of long-term commitment. You can just try it out and decide later if it's right for you. I'll give you 60 days to test out the service at no risk, and if during that period you find that you're not getting the best tech investing research you've ever seen, or for any reason at all, you can simply call our member services team and cancel your membership. We'll give you a full refund on your order, no questions asked, and we'll let you keep everything you received as a member. That is right. You can keep all the issues. You can keep all these special reports that you see on your screen. You can keep everything. This means that there's no risk to you at all for this offer. To get started, simply click on the button on your screen, and you'll be taken to another page where you can review everything one last time. But please don't wait. I do believe the Trump administration could add this company's name to their list of strategic projects at any moment now. And if that happens, it could be too late. We really don't have any time to waste here, and I already showed you what happened to Tesla. It went up as high as 2,100% in the years after I recommended it, and anyone who waited simply missed out on those big gains. The same thing happened with NVIDIA. It went up as high as 22,000% since I recommended it back in 2016. Anyone who waited missed out on those big gains. The same thing happened with Bitcoin. It went up more than 45,000% after I recommended it. And anyone who waited then missed out on those extraordinary gains. So please don't make that mistake. Click on the button on your screen to get started. And look, if you're still not sure the near future report is right for you, let me share a few emails I got from my readers, and maybe that'll help you decide. Tim says, Jeff, I've been investing and working in the technology industry since 1985. Your insight and experience is easily the best I have ever read. I'm in my first year with you and have made good money with your recommendations. Thank you. Ruan says, I've been a loyal subscriber for some time now and greatly admire and appreciate the work you do to bring us readers such quality recommendations. Your newsletters are well worth their weight in gold. And Leonard says, just wanted you all to know that this is the most trustworthy news and picks I ever came across. Hands down, my portfolio is nothing now but Jeff's picks, and I'm very pleased with how they are performing. The best newsletter published, period. Keep up the great work. You could be the next success story. So please, click on that button to get started. And just keep in mind that all investments carry risk, and past performance does not guarantee future success. Like I showed you here today, we have seen situations like this before when we had a huge imbalance of supply and demand in a critical resource. And in these situations, shares of the best companies involved exploded higher. For gains big enough to turn $5,000 into more than $122,000 in Southern Copper, more than $320,000 in Cleveland Cliffs, $779,000 in Azimut, and even $1.7 million in Forsyth Metals, all in just a few years. They all soared higher because of this law of economics. And that's why this opportunity is so explosive. With AI applications going mainstream, the demand for these metals is set to skyrocket. And at the same time, China, which is the main source of these metals, has cut its exports, creating a supply crunch. On top of all this, there is only one company here in the U.S. that can satisfy that increasing demand. As you can see, this AI metal virtual monopoly is in a perfect position to profit from this situation. And with the Trump administration providing key support, I believe the sky is the limit for this company. We couldn't have asked for a more perfect scenario. That's why I believe if you miss this upcoming boom, you might never see an explosive opportunity like this ever again. So please, click on that button to get started, and you'll get access to everything you see on your screen. 12 months of my best investment ideas. Every month, you'll get a brand new issue of the Near Future Report with my top way of playing AI, blockchain, robotics, self-driving cars, and all the most exciting tech trends of our time. The main report, the company behind the $100 trillion AI metal, and I'll give you all the details on this exciting virtual monopoly, including the name and ticker symbol. Bonus report number 1, the biggest IPO of the decade, how to claim your stake in SpaceX. I'll show you how to partner with Elon starting with just $500. Bonus report number 2 is called How to Profit from Elon Musk's Robotics Revolution. Elon Musk believes this is a $25 trillion opportunity, and I found an Elon supplier that I believe will end up playing a key role in this robotics revolution. Find out its name, ticker symbol, and all the details inside this report, and you'll also get Elon Musk's silent partner, how to profit from his new $9 trillion revolution. Inside, I'll tell you about a company that could help Elon unlock $9 trillion in new wealth with his robotaxi network. And aside from all these special reports, you'll also get full 24/7 access to our members-only website. And that's where you can access all the issues, all the special reports, video updates, and our model portfolio, where you can see all the current open positions. And you'll get full support from my team. Please feel free to call or email them for any help you need with your membership, but please remember, they cannot offer personalized investment advice. Please click on the button on your screen to get started because, while I can't guarantee results, I believe the Trump administration could add this company to their list of critical projects at any moment now. You'll want to get in now for the chance to see the very best gains. Like I showed you earlier, a few resource companies have already been added to that list, and in some cases, shares jumped a lot higher. Please don't wait. Click the button on your screen to get started, and I look forward to welcoming you to the Near Future Report. Thanks for watching, and remember, we have so much to look forward to.